everyone, welcome back to Gotham Discussions. I am Captain Logan, and with me as always is Steve Baxi.
Hello.
And the amazing DanzNewz.
I'm Vince.
Today, no you're not, you're Dan. That was a decent Vince impression. That was a good Vince impression if Vince was a cartoon character. Today, we're going to talk about the mid-season finale. I guess that's what we call things now. You know, when I was a kid, we didn't have mid-season finales.
I hate it.
But now you hate it. Okay, we'll talk about it. So anyway, today we're going to talk about the mid-season finale. It's Lovecraft, and before that, we'll answer some questions and talk about some comments from last time. So this is the part where we'll talk about Barbara, and then we won't have to do that at all the rest of the episode. Yay for that. Okay, so, and I say that because we talk about Barbara so much that most of these are just people saying, or a lot of these are people saying what we said, but in much, much funnier ways. The first person is Eric Horton, who says, Gotham is not very good, but neither was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. until after Cap 2. A full season order is a mistake. Too many filler episodes. A good, lean 10 to 13 episode run would have served the show better. That is a really fair point. As I keep saying, this is just my opinion, I think that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this season has been better at its overarching story. I think this show has been a little better at its one-and-done episodes. I'm actually glad that I've had those, and feel like I would not like this show as well, probably if I was only seeing the big conspiracy stuff, because sometimes I'm really excited about that, but like I said, like a lot of the best acting and stuff have come from those singular episodes. What do you guys think?
It seems like every time we get an episode that advances the story, there are more issues than compliments. So I guess I'm with you. Like, this episode, it has that Penguin's umbrella, even though I really liked it, had some issues near the end. But then I keep thinking back to good episodes, and it's the Balloon Man, it's the Mask, it's episodes like that. So.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I agree. I like the Viper episode was probably one of my favorites so far. The goat, the Spirit of the Goat one, that was a good episode. Like, a lot of the standalones are very strong comparative to the ones that are trying to continue on the storyline.
I also feel like the overarching conspiracy stuff and all of that would feel, and the big master plan stuff with Penguin, would feel less stretched out if it was in the background and going alongside the one-and-done episodes. Like, I feel like instead of having so many episodes devoted to that and stretching the stuff so thin, how come most of the episodes aren't one-and-done with maybe 15, 20 minutes devoted to this stuff, sort of like the flashbacks in Arrow, except that they wouldn't be flashbacks.
Yeah. The idea of like doing kind of the less is more approach would definitely work out better. One of my favorite series is Law and Order. I love Law and Order because that's a show that's so subtle with the kind of overarching backstory what's going on. It's more so about the individual cases. But I'd like to see kind of, like you said, something 15, 20 minutes of kind of the overarching story.
Some people said when the show started they were worried about this being too much of a procedural show, but I think you could have sold that to people. I think that people might have started off saying, "Oh, we don't want that. Why is it a Batman show? Why is it a Gotham show?" And then you know, if the show is just so good at it, nobody would have cared. Angie, Barbara is a spoiled princess who clearly has daddy and mommy issues. She seeks the comfort of stability and dependable authority by dating a cop, but when things get rough, she runs to her mommy, Montoya. She doubts Jim Gordon's integrity and wants him to be a good guy, but runs away after she goes through what Jim goes through almost every day. Some wife material she is. Yeah, just to sum that all up, she's super shallow and doesn't understand her own psychology. Yeah, absolutely. Well said. I agree with all of that. Action Pictures, Harvey Dent, can we trust him? That was kind of the question. This week a little bit, I like that. Spartan Knight 67, now that we're done complaining about Wayne Manor, I don't know if we are. I don't know that we're done complaining about Wayne Manor. I think it's time to point out that in almost every episode they use the same hallway staircase. This episode, it was the exterior of that girl's apartment. In Balloon Man, it was the exterior to another apartment. And in Viper, it was the exterior of the professor's office. I didn't notice that, but that reminds me a lot of the set that they use for the shelter in Smallville, where they have the spaceship, because they use that for a bunch of other things, and it's always really clear that that's what it is because they always light it the same way. I didn't notice that in this show. That's pretty funny. It's like how the bad guys in Lone Ranger always have a trap door.
Yeah.
Or the Batman villains are always in an abandoned warehouse.
Yeah.
Slimmy007. My mom showed me an article in my local newspaper about Gotham. Turns out it was an interview with the actress who plays Barbara, talking about how amazing it was for an Irish actress to get cast over an American actress, to which I yelled aloud, "Oh please, you're the worst part of the show." She's
Irish?
She sounded kind of cocky, like how Eric feels about Laurel in Arrow, even though I've only seen her in Misfits, where she played a Satan-possessed Girl Scout and Gotham. Yeah, fair enough.
Are we sure she doesn't play a Satan-possessed Girl Scout in Gotham?
I always felt a little bit about that, or a little bit that way, even sometimes about Kristen Couric in Smallville, with how she would talk about Lana, where there's just a little bit of denial sometimes with people who are in a great show and playing the worst character, and I can sympathize with that a little bit, right? Like, what if it was you and you were in the show, but they just gave you really horrible things to do? And yeah, I don't think she's a great actress or anything, but what do you want her to say? Yep, my character sucks.
That kind of make me like her more, honestly.
Yeah. Mass Sci-Fi fan, I actually thought Nigma's video game line was pretty funny, just because it's a character on a Fox show who actually likes video games.
Huh.
Is that a thing, where like characters on Fox shows don't like video games?
Evidently.
I don't know. Half of them get canceled before I can even watch them, so...
Let's just answer a couple more. There's a bunch of stuff, like always, and we need to get to today's episode. But let me see if there's a couple others. Let's see here. Jamie Cook, I wish the kid actors in Flash were as good as the ones in Gotham. I dread the flashbacks in that show. I've said the same thing. Some people have disagreed with me. I am overall really happy with the kid actors in this, although we'll talk about it because there is one in today's episode that I did not care for at all. Oh, you guys are with me on this. Okay. I thought I might be a lone wolf on that.
No, it's on my list. It's on my list.
Looking forward to that. Okay. Okay, more Barbara hate. Why not? T-Guy lost. So I totally missed the whole Barbara thing this episode. God, I hate her. I don't really understand why writers can't write famous comic book relationships before the characters become the famous couple. If you can't make it work without cheap drama and padding, then just write them as a couple already. Yep, we've said the same thing, yeah? Selena was the best part of this episode, and then he talks a little bit about the episode. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, like always, tons and tons of stuff. Let's go ahead and go on to today's episode. Today's episode is Lovecraft, and I want to start with Dan, because Dan revealed to us before the show began that he hasn't seen this since last week, so I'm excited to see if he remembers anything about it at all. No, I'm kidding. Dan, start us in a place. What was something you thought really worked this episode, or just how did you feel about it overall?
I loved seeing Alfred out of his element a little bit, or more so in his element. Like, this guy could really kick some butt, and it was cool seeing him kind of play against our kind of images of Alfred in our head, guy walking around, serving tea and stuff like that. Like, he was. I liked his interrogation scene with him and Bullock. Where he's throwing out the money to do it, and Bullock's like, I'll beat him up, it'll work this way better, and stuff like that. Like, it's funny seeing Alfred's contrast to the rest of Gotham, because we only see him in the mansion, really. Like, I just really enjoyed seeing him in that mixed in with the rest of the show.
Come on, Alfred, keep your cheese.
Yeah. It's one of my lines. I think that's the Bullock, that's so Bullock line.
That might be the That's So Bullock line. Yeah, I'm with you. I have another thing written, but I think that's better. I love Bullock and Alfred. I think that Gordon going off to Arkham at the end, we should replace him with Alfred as Bullock's partner. I think that
honorary detective.
Honestly, if this became the Bullock and Alfred show, it's immediately a better show. Yes, immediately a better show.
That would be an instantly better. If they ever do a spin-off, that's what they should do. It's like the private eye years, Private Eye Bullock and Alfred.
It's I Spy, but with those characters. I like Gordon okay, but then I saw them together and I was like, no, this is more fun. Let's do this. Let's do this. Just because they get along, they see things somewhat in a similar vein. Like I really liked how much respect Alfred had for him immediately, or I'm sorry, Bullock had for Alfred immediately, and when he was like, yeah, you can handle yourself. This is the only city where you could get away with that. We're like, oh yeah, you know how to use a weapon. Why don't you come with me and do some police work? That was awesome.
No, it was awesome.
It was also fun that Alfred was really kind of blunt about things. Like, there was no beating around the bush with him. We got to that butch guy in Fish Mooney's place, and he just kind of tosses him on the ground, talks Fish Mooney into getting what he needs. When the guys came in to kill Selena Kyle, he's beating them up with a cane. Like, there's no waiting period with that guy. It's really fast-paced, especially when we get to his scenes, which is weird because this whole episode feels really slow.
Yeah. I thought so too. Part of that is because you've got some elements that are really, really great and some elements that are a little bit lacking. I think probably the big place to start after that is maybe with Falcone. I want to know what you guys think about him because I'm of two minds about it, and I know I say that a lot, but we've got Harvey Dent in the show now, so I feel better about saying that. No, I'm kidding. I thought that Falcone was smarter than he seems to be. And yet, I wonder if moving along, we might find that he actually knows exactly what's going on with Liza, and that he's playing the exact same game Penguin is with his whole long con, kind of just wait for the time bomb to blow up itself. Maybe he knows what Penguin is doing. I don't know. What do you think, Steve? I'm really up in the air about how he was handled here.
Yeah, okay, let me see. If it's what you say, what your hope is, of maybe he knows what's going on with Liza, then this is how his plan reads to me. He let Penguin take Jim Gordon to be the executioner because he knew Penguin wasn't actually going to die, and then Penguin was going to come back to the city and work for Maroni and guarantee to get up there. And so now he's working with Maroni as a mole inside the office, and while Penguin is working with him on the side, and so he kills a guy randomly and says he trusts Fish Mooney in public, just so later he could reverse that. It would be really convoluted. So I'm more on the side of...
Everybody got that? Did we all make our graphs and our... we make our flow chart?
A lot of red yarn.
It would be on the side of... Falcone doesn't know what's going on, and because he doesn't know what's going on, it makes him immediately less interesting to me. Because I feel like the actor is really good. This actor is like really a Godfather mob boss kind of level. And we're not treating him like that. He feels like he would understand these things a bit better, especially considering he knows what Penguin's doing with Maroni and what Fish Mooney's doing behind his back. It's really strange. On top of that, where is Maroni in all this? Like, have we all but forgotten that Maroni is supposed to think Penguin's on his side?
Yeah, how is Penguin... Does Penguin just have a lot of time off right now?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I didn't think of that. Yeah. I mean, obviously, the show hasn't forgotten about him. He's still invoked here. We've got obviously like Fish and Penguin are pretending like or rather Fish is pretending like Maroni's the guy that did it, but Penguin says he didn't because he didn't. I don't know. When you get in the car with him and kind of Fish's right hand man, and he was like, why don't you just come out and tell Falcone the truth? And then he gives the answer he gives. It wasn't good enough for me. I hope it is later. But when he says, I'm just biding my time, let's let the time bomb go off, I felt like it was kind of, the show needs to stretch this a little longer. I want to buy that that's the right move in this situation, but you're right. It does feel like we have your kind of typical TV like master plan of everything that the show decides to have a character do. They had planned all along, and don't think about it too long, or it's like time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on the front of him not necessarily knowing who's behind everything and it being relatively obvious, I think they could easily subside that by just showing us more of the mob family. Like, I think it was this episode where we had them all sitting at the table, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, like this one is, they show us all these other players in the town, and if they showed us more of the activity outside of just Fish Mooney's side, just Falcone's side, and just Maroney, it feels like maybe he would have more people to suspect. Like, it would seem like he's less or more, at least more smart than he kind of, because he just doesn't seem like it seems pretty obvious it's Fish.
But that's assuming that the show isn't trying to right now make us think that Falcone is dumber than he really is, and that's what I'm wondering. And I don't know that that's working. But like, when he kills that guy right in front of everybody, and I liked that. It's nice to see him finally do some dirty work on his own. I think that's the first time we've seen him do that. And obviously, he's getting a little bit desperate because now he's got to start forcing everybody to pay more, and obviously that's gonna backfire on him a little bit, and that's what Fish is counting on. Some of those, I don't know, some of that intrigue and some of those politics on the surface seem really good, but then I start questioning the logic of some of it, because like I said, he kills that guy in front of everybody, and he's trying to and I think he does that just to see the look on Fish's face, right? Like I think he does that just to see if he can get a sense of whether or not Penguin is right. The problem is, if that's what's going on there, that means that he didn't really suspect her until right then, and then it's not what Steve is saying, which is good, because that would be obnoxious. On the other hand, he's not nearly as smart as he ought to be if that's the case, and it's really typical obvious TV, and clearly my standards are far too high. Yep, you're absolutely right, Dan. The more I'm thinking about it, you're absolutely right. It plays in this episode like the excuse is supposed to be, well, I didn't think of Fish because it could have been anybody, because all these other people hate me just as much as she does. Yep, Dan's right. Show us more of it.
And that raises another question of, does Falcone want to look like an idiot? It doesn't. Okay, here's what I mean when I say that. He kills a guy to kind of show his force. And then he goes on to comment that you could all learn a lesson from Fish. But Fish and our entire operation is absolutely certain that they want to overthrow Falcone. She talks about it openly to her entire gang. They all know it. Everyone in Nikolai's group knew it before he died. And Penguin knows it. And the police know it. Like, so, if everyone in the sphere of Gotham knows Fish wants to overthrow Falcone, and Falcone is like, no, I trust her to his lieutenants, what is it doing to get anyone on his side? He says that like, everyone's after him, sure, but they're after him in the sense that they're afraid of him also. Now I don't even think you'd be afraid of him if you think he could say that with a straight face. It makes him look really dumb.
Yeah, everyone needs to be more like Fish, and they're all like, okay, so that means that we need to send in a mole. And that's a good point, Steve. Man, and I'm just bummed out because I love that actor.
Yeah. No, and they've been building it relatively beautifully up to this point. Like, I feel like it's been building up like well enough. But
yep, this was weird. When you've got all that symbolic stuff early on, like he's 5 steps ahead of everybody, but pretending like he's behind, and he's got like the thing with the chickens and all of that, and then you have this episode. I'm like, I feel like either we didn't have a plan with him, or somebody missed a memo that wrote this script and they just let it go for some reason, and I think it's more likely to be the former. This sure didn't seem like where stuff was going, and I don't know. It seems like suddenly I don't know if these guys can write the intrigue that they are acting like they. And I've had my reservations about some of the politics and the intrigue, but here especially, like if the time bomb goes off and Liza ends up being the thing that actually overthrows Falcone, I'm gonna think that this show is thinks I'm stupid.
Yeah. I think this episode, more than any other, is confirming the fears I had with Penguin's umbrella of, like, this is all great, but with this mastermind plot, you're probably going to collapse if you don't do it carefully enough.
Yep.
and they kind of collapse it. It's not gone, but there's a wing of it that's just sort of missing at this point.
Yeah, and it took them a lot longer to do that in Arrow with Slade. I mean, like I think we're kind of seeing a similar thing here. Dan hasn't seen that part yet, probably, but anyway.
Very beginning of season 2 is where I'm at.
All right. Well, so you're at the quintessential awesomeness of that show right now.
Yes, I am,
because it's so good. But anyway, okay, what else do we want to talk about? Is there any more stuff there with like the Penguin and Falcone stuff? And I don't know. I feel like, as you said, it's kind of slow.
Yeah. I want to keep invoking Penguin's Umbrella because I feel like Penguin's Umbrella. I said that in that review. I think of that felt like it should have been the mid-season finale.
I didn't agree with you then.
Felt thrilling.
I agree with you now.
Yeah. I mean, that episode, people were doing things. People were desperate. People were on a mad scramble. People were on the run. There was a thrill there. This episode, it's what I wanted the whole season of. Bruce needs to be on the run to kind of get him on the ground and see what he does. There's no music swelling. There's no different directing. There's no, like, concentration on what these guys are going with. It's just a really slow episode. I was yawning a couple of times while watching it. And I watched it twice, and I don't know, I got sleepy. I just wasn't that engaged.
You know, with the whole mid-season finale thing, it needs to feel sort of like a season finale if we're gonna do this now, if we're gonna break these things up into kind of two chunks like that. And Penguin's Umbrella really had that, and if we hadn't had one already, I wouldn't feel as much that way maybe, but on the other hand, you get the sense that this is still supposed to have kind of that, like, it's all been leading up to this kind of thing, and then you get to the end, and the only thing it's really been leading up to is Gordon gets demoted and thrown into Arkham, which I love, and I think that's really interesting, and I can't wait to go there. And the one thing that still really got me by the horns to come back is I cannot wait to see the inside of that building. I cannot wait to see Jim Gordon having to work there, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see how long he's there and what it's like and how it changes the flavor of the show. But it's such a good idea, it makes me almost wish we had started there with him. It makes me almost wish that the premise of the show was, what if Jim Gordon started as a security guard in Arkham? What a cool idea!
Security like that would have guard Gordon.
Yeah, but
in
like
Gotham.
I don't know. Because I think it's I think what happened was at the beginning of the show we rushed things too hard to get characters to certain places so that it would feel more like where we knew them from, sort of, kind of, and so that we'd go, oh, that's very clever, you're doing Batman things. And we rushed things to the point where now we're kind of backtracking and going, okay, we don't really know, or like we know where we want to go, but we have to stall out now because we can't get there till the end of the season. I get the sense now that we're probably going to find out who the Wayne killers are by the very end of the season, and they got to stall us out till we get there. That's the sense I'm getting from this episode, and I'm sort of like, I kind of wish that we could have maybe not done that. That's, I don't know. That's kind of where I feel like we're at right now.
I feel like kind of like what Steve said with the Penguins Umbrella. I think things could have been shifted. So it was like the story elements from this episode was kind of spread out through different episodes, and the Penguins Umbrella stuff happened in this one. And the Penguins Umbrella was the one where Gordon was going to take down everybody, right?
Yeah.
By the end of it. Okay, so I mean that had the stakes. That had the high stakes where it's just like he's either going to do what he did, or he could potentially die, or something's going to happen. And that could have been where he led to his demotion, just the same. As this had happened.
We did it too early, and maybe it's because of episode count. And I'm so sick of harping on this. Like it seems like most of the shows I'm watching this season, we've got too many episodes. We don't know what to do with them all, and now we're seeing that really hard here. And
I mean, the argument for this kind of stuff is, like, every time we talk about mid-season finales, like, well, the problem is before shows were less complicated to produce, so now it takes more time, so we need to take breaks in between. If that's the case, if you need to take almost a season break or a month or two off, just write 13-episode seasons.
Yeah.
Just make them shorter. I don't understand why every channel needs to have 22-episode seasons, especially considering that Gotham was on a pretty good roll for a little while there.
Yeah.
Everything episode from 1 to 9 was really gripping and really worked for me, minor problems aside. So, I mean,
Barbara
he's really
aside.
dropped the ball here as far as, like, making me want more.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this, and it's unusual for me to actually say that shows should be like this show, at least past season 1. But do what Heroes did in season 3 and 4. So split it up in multiple chapters. Seasons 3 and 4 of Heroes are each have 2 seasons inside of them. And the first chapter of season 3 I thought was abysmal and too complicated and wonky. And then the second part of it I thought was really interesting. You could kind of fix problems by doing that, right? Where like if you have an uneven season, but it feels like 2 seasons, then you can get people back with you a lot faster if you do 13 episodes and the story you told maybe just was not as good as last time or whatever, but then like you can really get me back with like the next 13 episode season, and then your writing is tighter that way. Or as I said, make this a procedural crime drama that is 22 episodes, and just let the Wayne murder be in the background, because I don't feel like that has to be the most complicated thing in the world, right? And obviously, it's not complex enough for them to use all the real estate they have with it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you got to get the sense that they're not doing that on purpose, because the first thing from the show's announced, and I think I say it almost every episode, they should have just done Gotham Central.
Yep.
I feel like that criticism is the one thing about the show that's probably not going to go away.
Nope.
Just do Gotham Central. That's what you want. That's what the people want. And that's what would work best for the kind of drama you're setting up.
With the exception of the Bruce Wayne stuff, which I feel like they do kind of have some kind of new ideas about, they have some kind of inspired ideas about what Bruce Wayne would be like at 13, especially if he knew some of these characters. I watched this episode twice and I liked it better on second viewing. I thought the Bruce and Selena stuff spoke to me in a way the second time around it didn't the first time around, and I thought it was maybe not as great as last time we saw them together, but the big thing I really liked about it was Selena has real-life kid logic. Like, really good real-life kid logic. When she says, I messed with you and told you that the bad guys were after you just so that we could hang out some more, that's very real kid logic. I really liked that a lot. Because at first, I mean, I was with Bruce at first when he's like, hey, these people are trying to murder us and you're playing games with me. But the thing about it is, she is both very real world and not real world at all at the same time, right? Where like she lives on the streets, she knows how to take care of herself, but she's got that very real kid thing of she's always managed to get out of scrapes before. She thinks she's untouchable. And I love that. Like, that stuff I thought worked great. Even Bruce trying to jump the roofs, which I thought was a little too obvious at first, I ultimately came around on because he's willing to risk his life to find his parents' killer. I thought that worked. Closest thing to real stakes I cared about.
Yeah, agreed.
What else do you guys have to say on that part?
Most of my notes are actually, for the most part, about because again, I didn't watch the episode twice, so I can kind of almost completely forgotten about all the Falcone, Maroni, all the Penguin stuff, and most of my notes were either about Alfred or the whole Selena and Bruce stuff, because that was kind of the highlight of the episode for me. I liked that in the beginning of the episode, Bruce says, "You're good, but you're not a nice person." I like that he can tell the difference. Like, he can see in her that there is good, but she's in it for herself, and she's not, I liked that he is that omnipresent at that moment. Like, he's kind of getting better at almost learning from her that not everything is black and white. You need to be able to kind of apply kind of different logic to things. But it kind of led to what you were talking about earlier about the bad actor thing. Child actor. Okay, so
let's go there. Let's do it.
Scene where Kat takes Bruce to the black market. They run into Ivy, who is not very happy about meeting Bruce. But that actress, I'm sorry, it's just like I could see the script in her eyes.
Yeah,
it was so bad. I feel terrible about saying that about a child who's just trying to act, but that, like, comparative to an episode that's focused on Kat and Bruce, these two child actors who are so great together and play well, and there's subtlety in their performances.
And they understand the material. I mean, like my big thing was, I'm gonna go this far. I felt like I could see the actors playing Bruce and Selena trying really hard to elevate her in that scene. Like, they got what it was supposed to be when they, excuse me, when they turn around and she's like, okay, keep walking, she's really scary. I'm like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to read her performance. Okay, like, she was supposed to be like really super demented and like really unhinged, and I didn't get that from her at all. And I was like, oh, that's what that was. Oops. Like, you need a really spooky, creepy kid, and they didn't find it. And the thing is, they have the opposite thing from what we had with Selena in the first episode. We have Ivy in the first episode. She doesn't say anything or hardly says anything. She's got a nice creepy look in her eyes. As long as she's just sitting in a chair doing nothing, she's okay.
Spraying plants.
And then you get her in this episode, and she finally talks, and I'm like, oh, wait. What if that had happened with Selena, man? What if when she finally talked, she was like that actress? And again, I mean, I feel bad about it. She's younger, sure. That's tougher. That's hard. It's harder to find that actress. But she looks as inexperienced as she is, and the other two kids don't. And you put them all together, and you get nothing that's working very well.
Yeah.
Oh man, disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm almost like at a loss for words with that scene, because it's just, it's not like it's terrible. It's just the tension there and the dialogue there and the whole situation is just so manufactured, and no one's like putting anything into it except Selena and Bruce. And even them, like, I'm not with them character-wise for most of the episode until we get to like later stuff and Bruce jumping the roof and stuff like that. But in that scene, it completely lost me. There was no grip to that scene. There wasn't even like good directing in that scene to make it feel like it was more tense than it was. Because directing can make bad acting work. I mean, you see that in James Bond movies a lot sometimes too. I don't like Daniel Craig as an actor, but the directing always makes it work. Wasn't here. There was nothing to that scene. There was nothing to the set dressing. There was nothing to it that made it stand out any more than Ivy is bad.
Yeah. Well, I think we can all agree she's still a better actress than Barbara.
Real quick, I want to throw out something that I thought was actually really strong that I liked a lot. I like by the end, and I didn't pick this up until I watched it a second time. I like how the subplots are converging thematically. The question of fear and how healthy fear is in dealing with Gotham as an entity is starting to really come through and shine through. And this is the part that is bookended from the pilot. And I think this is the big thing they were trying to do in making this the mid-season finale. The mayor, and he wasn't there, I don't think, for Gordon saying this, so it's kind of convenient that he managed to put this in exactly the same way, but Mayor James throws Gordon's words kind of back in his face from the pilot when he says that Dent knows how to walk the line and he knows where the edge is. And in the pilot, Gordon says fear is not a bad thing. He says this to Bruce when they first meet. Fear's not a bad thing. Fear is how we know where the edge is. And where does Gordon go right at the very end of the episode? To Arkham Asylum. He's not afraid enough. And I think that's potentially really interesting. We're kind of walking this line of how much of this kind of healthy fear do you need? How courage. Dumb courage is really bad when you're in Gotham. At the same time, if you are too afraid, then you get manipulated and you just become part of the system. So where do you draw that line? Where do you find that midpoint? Where the subplots are converging is with the line, don't confuse bravery for good sense, which we get earlier, or which we get a little bit earlier with the assassin who says that to Bruce. So we're making this parallel between Bruce and Gordon is doing precisely that. He's confusing bravery for good sense. That's where the whole thing comes together for me, and where I'm like, no, it's a better episode than I thought it was. I mean, the master plot stuff, I think is starting to break apart. But the character stuff with Gordon might be going in a place that we need to give it some credit for.
Yeah, agreed. Lovecraft has a great line to Gordon before he ultimately dies when he says, "You're so deep into the maze you can't see over the wall."
Yep.
And that's exactly what Gordon's into. Bruce has that going on a little bit, and you get a sense of that because he's finally in the city and he's finally doing things and interacting things and changing himself a little bit. And you see him like walking on the side of railings and stuff, and clearly there's an aspect of fear in him that he's still missing, and a part of fear that Selena still has, which is why she always runs.
Yeah.
And then when you get to Gordon doing the exact same mistake, it's a really good way to parallel both those characters because they're so intimate in both of their lives. I like that Alfred doesn't look comfortable in what he's doing. Like, he's doing it and he's kind of back in his old shoes, but they're not hamming it up like Gordon before, where this guy enjoys the fight. And I think it's because Alfred, at least just from this episode, Alfred's not making that mistake. Alfred sees the writing on the wall of where this might all lead.
He's maybe the most realistic character in the show. What I mean is the character with the most sense of what the real is, right? Like Alfred seems to understand this city, and he's maybe the one that can live most easily in it. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, and it's interesting. He's not batting an eyelash at how Gotham works. He's completely okay with Bullock's methods, and Bullock's completely okay with his.
Isn't that interesting?
You have to wonder what that says about him a little bit.
Yeah, well, and I found myself kind of questioning that a little bit in places with this episode with multiple characters of like how far are they willing to go. I wondered if Kat would have done the same thing for Bruce when he says, "Oh, I don't know where she is," and risked the assassin, possibly just popping him right there. And then when she says, "Don't confuse courage for good sense," it made me wonder. I don't know if Selena would have done the same thing.
And I think that was the point of that scene when Selena looks back and leaves. Yeah. So I think that's going to be an interesting way to pick up their relationship. When Bruce says to her very early on in the episode that you're a good person, but you're not a nice person. Mm-hmm. I thought that was fantastic. Because Bruce so far is a little bit street ignorant, but overall wise. And I think that's that in spades. Bruce understands the overview, the macro levels of people, but not the individual cases. And he's starting to learn that now that he's finally in the city.
Why don't we go ahead and go on to best moment, worst moment? I'm sure some other stuff will come up as we go through the categories. Dan, what was your favorite moment for the episode?
I really liked. I put in my notes Alfred Pennyworth in The Butler. I like the Alfred kicking ass and taking names. It was awesome. I thought the only thing about when he answers the door and she's like, "It was just in a car accident." All she had did was taken the gardener's blood and like smeared it on her forehead. Like he clearly could have seen that there was no real wound. It was just blood that was dried on her head. I think that was a little misstep. Maybe he was just flustered, but I think he's a little bit smarter than that. But I just really enjoyed that scene and like the Alfred stuff throughout the episode, because I really feel like Alfred and Bruce, they really kind of like, in a sense, complete each other. Like they're each other's humanity in a way a little bit. I feel like, I think Steve was saying that he was almost a little too. Did you say that he was almost a little too into what he was doing, or can't remember what?
Yeah, a little bit. Like he's really comfortable in it, but it's not in the sense like he's relishing in it or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like he's lived a lot more years than obviously Gordon, but he parallels him in certain ways. But I feel like he's seen so much that now that he's been a butler, he's been with the Waynes, he has now essentially this son in Bruce. I feel like that's his humanity, and when he loses that element, like that one crucial element of himself, essentially with Bruce, like he'll do anything to get him back. I really love just how all that was working.
Yeah, Dan, I'm with you. That opening scene was so sloppy. Like when she walks in, and is pretending like she was in a car accident, and then sees Selena and does this like really melodramatic look. I was like, how hard would it be to just, I don't know, not do that? Like you're like,
and then get close and be like, "Oh, this is your cute little."
Yeah.
And just like
here's an idea. Why don't you like draw it out longer and keep in character and keep pretending? Maybe she's just a really bad actress. I mean, the character. Yeah. And because I'm like, all you had to do was get a little closer to her, and then throw a knife or shoot her or whatever it was you were going to do in the first place. But no, we've got to have an episode, and so we got to do the most obvious dumb thing.
And who knew there was staff at Wayne Manor, like an actual like lawn staff. There was one guy. I was like, who's this? There's actually people who work at Wayne Manor.
Clearly, he's the only one, because when Kat at the end is like, your security sucks, I'm like, oh yeah, that's because they have a gardener, and
because
that's
it was
it.
Alfred and Bert the gardener.
Bert the gardener. Steve, what was your best moment?
My best moment is kind of a tie between Bruce making that jump to Selena's roof. I thought that all of that was acted really well. I thought the tension that was really good, and I love what you said earlier about Bruce is more afraid about not finding his parents' killer than he is about dying. I think that was all great. I also love his line at the end where he says, "Please don't run off again, I'm out of breath."
Yeah, that was great.
And then the other one is when Mayor James is reprimanding both Gordon and Harvey, and Gordon tells the mayor to kiss his ass.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I thought that was coming. That was coming all season so far, and I liked the way he delivered it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was great. And he kind of just takes his lumps, as we keep talking about. People take their lumps in the show. The Alfred and Bullock show, man. I just all of that was really, really good. And here are two characters I would not have, very unlikely rapport. I would not have expected those two to have great character chemistry, but they really did. I don't know what it is about the scene with Alfred and Fish that really got me. I thought that was great. Just like the way he kind of appeals to her, like, kind of lighter side, sort of. There's really nothing in that for her. I get the sense that there is, like, maybe this, like, I don't know, slight humanity left to her, or maybe she's just really super curious about Alfred, and she's like, yeah, this guy's fascinating. He's just a butler. I'm gonna give him whatever he wants. I got nothing to lose.
Well,
he's really interesting.
Now there's that token that will probably play out sometime down the road where she said, you owe me a favor. Yeah. So I'm sure that'll play out.
That's a good point, because she did just see him with the knife, so she's probably like, oh, this guy has skills. But I also kind of, I saw something in her eye a little bit. I mean, I couldn't help but think she is so intrigued by him that's why she's doing this. Mm-hmm. I liked that a lot. Worst moment, Dan, Ivy.
Ivy. I was just like, I don't really think there was... No, yeah, it was Ivy's acting. It was really unfortunate. I wanted to, I think from the first episode, the second she came in, she was a little too, like, beating me over the head. Oh, characters from Batman. So, I mean, I was already kind of adverse, like, I was already kind of against her. And then her acting, I'm sorry. Oh, I felt so bad. I was just like, no! Oh, these other actors are so great, but that's the risk you take when you work with children actors. And I think there could have been maybe more consideration to her. Like, anybody working on that show should know. Like, yeah, she's not the best. Maybe recast her, or just whatever. But I don't think it was playing well.
We've seen that with a lot of pilots, right? I mean, we've seen, especially the kid. Like we accepted it with Sarah and Arrow. I don't know why we couldn't do it here. Yeah, so anyway. Steve, do you agree? Do you have the same scene, or do you have a different scene?
Yeah, I think it's just that. Nothing about this episode was just overtly terrible, as much as just things going forward, except that scene.
Yeah. That's mine too. There's also a slight runner-up. This is just a little thing that kind of bugged me. It was a little bit too much of the tongue-in-cheek, we're a Batman show kind of thing. I didn't care for Kat calling Bruce B, and I hope she never ever does it again. Get it? B starts Bruce and Batman, and like she does it when they're on the roof. And I think when they're on the roof is when she does it. I forget, but I could have done without that.
Fair enough.
Quotes. What was your favorite quote, Dan?
Mayor James, kiss my ass. I love that line. Like Steve said, it was the delivery. It was something that was coming, a long time coming, and I had a big grin on my face when that line came on. I was just like, yeah, he said it. But I also loved in that scene, it was just like police chief mayor. That's what I kept thinking. It was like, I'm gonna bust you down to Arkham if you keep. I felt like it was that he was the rowdy police sergeant. But yeah, I love the Mayor James kiss my ass. That was so great.
Steve,
that delivery is like grinding his teeth and stuff.
Yeah, it's like kiss my ass.
Steve!
Mine was the one I mentioned earlier. You're so deep into the maze you can't see over the wall.
I've got that too, yeah. Yeah, we didn't talk very much about the Lovecraft stuff, and the thing with Dent. Earlier we were talking about what do we think it is that slowed the show down a little bit. I kind of think don't have Harvey Dent in the show yet.
Yeah.
I'm just like I think I sort of can kind of see what they're trying to do with him in showing him as kind of like the dark mirror for Gordon, where he's trying to be the guy that's gonna put the city back together the way Gordon is, but it turns out that he's more corrupt than Gordon thought he was, and that he Gordon liked him at first because he takes risks, but he's taking the wrong kinds of risks, and he's taking risks with other people's lives, and he does stuff that Bullock would never think to do, and that kind of thing. Do we need that yet? Like is that really serving enough of a purpose right now to have it this early, or couldn't we have maybe, I don't know, opened the show with him already? I mean, I know I said we had too many characters in the pilot that we know already, but I'm just saying he came kind of out of nowhere, and now he's here, and I don't know. I'm not into that yet.
I don't think they've given him anything yet to just be very interesting. I don't want to rewrite the show or anything, but I'd almost feel like it would be cooler if Harvey Dent came up because he was inspired by Gordon doing something about the city by the end of the season or something.
That's good.
Like, that would just immediately make him interesting rather than just, hey, by the way, we know this district attorney guy and he's going to be relevant to the plot for 2 episodes.
Yeah. I feel like what they think is the interesting part about him is was his explosive nature in his introductory episode. I feel like they felt like that was interesting, but I don't. That didn't land for me at all. It just seemed too forced and shoehorned in.
Yeah. So anyway, quotes. Like I said, don't ever mistake bravery for good sense. I think that's really important. I think that's the thing that connects the 2 subplots together. If you died, who employs butlers anymore?
That's on my list as well. Yeah, I like that one.
That's so Bullock. I liked yours, Dan. The other one is, am I the only one in this damn town who waits for backup? That was awesome!
That's a good one. Who said trust me and I'll trust you? In that one. It was in the episode, because I put barber logic. Somebody said that, and I was like, that's such barber logic, but I didn't put who said it on my list.
I hope it was Harvey Dent. I hope so badly that was a Harvey Dent line.
It might have been Harvey Dent, but it was somebody who said it, and I was like, oh, that's such barber logic. I was just offended by that line, but yeah, no. Yeah, damn it, Alfred, save your cheese, and I could beat the truth out of this kid with roll quarters. I love that line.
Hey Dan, this is my double standard for you, pal. If you trust me, then I'll also trust you. Yeah.
Well, you have to do something to make me trust you first.
Oh, okay.
But I won't trust you until you've done that.
Okay, I'll give you this.
But then
Mountain
you can trust
Dew.
me.
I'll give you this Mountain Dew for your
I'll give you a
surge.
surge.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's.
I know. Just transfer it into the. Anyway.
All right. Time now for comic book references. Obviously, Bruce and Cat on the rooftops. The first time Bruce is ever running around on rooftops, and Cat and Ivy kind of Gotham City Sirens thing. They kind of, I think they kind of played their introduction as, look, we're putting these characters together. If you're a fan of the animated series, isn't that cool? Yeah, until she starts talking. Did you guys notice any other new things?
The assassin woman and her group of assassins are Copperhead, and they come from Arkham Origins. Yeah, and that was fine. There's actually also a female Copperhead in New 52, and one of her first missions is to kill Catwoman.
Oh, interesting! That's cool! Okay, alright. So, now on to predictions and hopes, finally. And I've already kind of given my 2 big things. I hope the Wayne Killer ends up being a giant satisfying reveal, because now that we did the Lovecraft thing, I haven't minded not knowing all this time, as we're not playing up the conspiracy too hard, where it's kind of there and we're just not working on it all the time because we don't have enough to go on. As soon as they did 2 episodes with the Lovecraft thing, I'm going, I hope as soon as we figure it out, it's a really big frickin' deal. The other thing is, I still love how big Arkham looks. Arkham looks like almost video game Arkham. It's so giant. I cannot wait to get inside there, and I hope it's not disappointing.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that. Other predictions and hopes.
I have kind of
mid-season finale. This should have been 20 minutes of the show, right?
That's the problem with this episode. It feels like there's going to be another one next week.
Dan, did you have one?
Predictions or hopes? I felt like that. I don't know if they've cast or anything, but if we're going to see Crane in Arkham in any sort of capacity, whether he's the janitor or something. I hope to see him. I mean, I hope they don't make him as annoying as like Riddler. I mean, not that Riddler is super annoying, but he's annoying to the characters. I enjoy the Riddler, but I don't know. I like to see Crane walking around in some sort of capacity, if not only like a orderly or something at the asylum.
I would also love if, when we get to Arkham, we do the Arkham mythology with Jebediah Arkham and all that stuff. Or, I mean, that would be really cool.
The spirit of Amadeus Arkham.
They have been playing it up as such a mysterious and it plays like trying to really kind of tantalize us with it. That I hope a lot of the show's more kind of comic book and pseudo fanciful mythology comes from that place.
Yeah. It seems they're playing up less of the Arkham family and more so the the Thomas and Martha Wayne connection, more so than the like Arkham family, which I've always kind of liked about the Arkham mythology. So we'll see.
Time now for trivia questions. And Dan, do you have one for us? Okay. Steve, what was your question from last time? What was the answer?
Okay, last time, my question, because it was called Harvey Dent, the episode, it was about Harvey Dent. After Hush restored Harvey's face, who scarred it during the 1 year later period? The answer is Harvey Dent himself scarred it. There's been a series of murders in Gotham, and Batman starts mistrusting Harvey, and so Two-Face's persona resurfaces, and he just scars half his face by himself.
Wow. Has there ever been a story where he scars the other side of his face so he doesn't have to flip the coin anymore? Where he's like, what if I was just all Two-Face and that was One Face? Well, actually, in 52 there was a thing where he called himself One Face, but I don't think he did it to himself.
What was the thing in the animated series?
I'm One Face!
In the animated series, wasn't he the judge as well? Wasn't that a third personality?
Oh, yeah.
I love that episode.
I haven't thought about that in years, Dan.
I love that episode.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
And then Dark Knight Returns, obviously, he's One Face, so...
Yeah, but he didn't do that to himself. Or did he?
No.
I forget.
It's hard to say, because he's delusional.
It's been a while since I've read that. I forgot. Okay, my question from last time was, what was the song on the cell phone with the bomb exploded? And it was the Final Countdown, which is so great. The bomb's counting down. Ba-da-da-da, boosh. That was a great idea. Once again, Zombie Thing MD, folks got to get quicker on the button so you can beat Zombie Thing MD, answered both of our trivia questions this week. And now we're going to go on to today's trivia questions. We begin with the always prepared Steve Baxi. What is your rubbing it in, Dan? What is...
I have a surge cap.
I'm so jealous of the surge. I'm going to have one, hopefully, like, next week or the week after. I'm going to... Steve, what is your trivia question for this week, sir?
Okay, this is a question where I know you're going to love the answer when I reveal it a month from now. But since we're talking about
can I know? Can I know after I turn the button on? After I turn the camera off? Can I know? Oh, yeah, that's exciting.
Okay, so we're talking about Copperhead, and Copperhead, the second one in the comics, was part of the Terror Titans for a little while. And my question is, who was the leader of the Terror Titans that recruited Copperhead?
I so want that to be in Tiny Titans somewhere. I just want the Terror Titans to be in the
Tiny Titans name.
Maybe it is. I don't know. Okay, that's a great question. I can't wait to find out the answer. My question for this time, as always, from the episode is how much money does Clyde offer Kat for all the stuff she brings him, which Bruce scoffs at? And at first I was like, why is he offering that little? And then I was like, oh, he's stalling, and he's angry because his really, really bad stalling technique didn't work. You idiot! Here's an idea. Why don't you start at a slightly higher price and haggle to waste time? Anyway, so that's my question. How much money did he offer? And anyway, as always, we sure appreciate you watching, and if you know the answer to either of our trivia questions, you can send that to me through Geekvolution.com. Go to the contact page and send me your answers, and be quick, because Zombie MD is going to beat you. And I think we've decided that Zombie MD is not actually Steve. So anyway, thanks again for watching. We sure appreciate it. We will be with you again in a month. It's going to be a while.
A while.
January.
Well, anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon. Yeah, I'm going to be depressed not having Dan on the channel for a few weeks. But you'll see Steve, because Steve and I are still doing Arrow and Constantine.
Yeah, Steve's in everything.
Steve is in everything. Anyway, thanks again for watching.
3 of the 6.
I am Captain Logan. This was Steve Baxi.
And I'm Vince!
That's a really good impression.
That's pretty good, yeah.
I've perfected it over the years.
And we'll, I'm not even going to say your actual name. We'll just pretend like that's what it is. And we'll see you again next time.